Right, everybody, let's have a look at Matic then, shall we? So first of all, just have a quick recap. So what's been going on today? Big drop with Bitcoin, and a relatively big bounce actually, showing that it met its first initial low target of 6,800, and now it wants to try and climb, probably try to get back up to 8,000. The Bitcoin dominance is actually looking pretty good, telling us that the market has fallen further than Bitcoin as a whole. And when we look at the crypto market cap excluding Bitcoin, what do we see? We see a tragic drop, a terrible tragedy with the entire market cap. So that would tell me that alt season has certainly been postponed until the new year. But that aside, let's focus on Matic then. So what's been going on with Matic? Matic is the exception to the rule. Matic fell pretty hard, extremely hard, coming all the way down to 1.2 cent. A massive drop. Very scary for us Matic holders, I'm sure you'd agree. From top to bottom, the recovery has now been one of 13%. So much better than Bitcoin. Bitcoin has certainly bounced, but let's have a look at these sats. Sats nearing our most recent top of this area here. If we can get up to 212 satoshis, then we're really talking about a strong recovery at this point. What I have to say though is that if Bitcoin decides it wants to crawl its way back up to the 8,000 area, Matic, depending on how fast Bitcoin does it, Matic's likely to carry on with its recovery. The satoshis could quite easily come back down to the 170 area. There's no reason why that wouldn't happen, but it's what I've been saying for a while now when it comes to Matic. It's in a reaccumulation zone. Those who hold it are keeping it, and those who are buying it at these critical low levels, they know they know that the Black Friday sale has begun on Matic. They don't want to miss out on an opportunity to really sort of pick up some really good coins at a very low rate. Now, what I've been saying is that, similar to Bitcoin, we did have this descending trend where we've been rejected from several times throughout the year. We broke out of that, similar to the way that Bitcoin did when we look at Bitcoin breaking out of its descending trend. We broke out of it in not quite as spectacular way that Bitcoin did, but a lot more of a healthy way. But it was pretty phenomenal, that move. I mean, that was a bigger move than the way that Bitcoin did. But what has happened is that we've managed to stay above the green 50 exponential this whole time, which is ever so slightly scaling its way up. We're not going to get overexcited until this green 50 crosses over this white 200. That's when things will really start to rocket. But the main thing is we need to get above this level here. This level here is basically the trigger point for it to start to make parabolic moves. That area is 2.7 cent. As soon as it makes that 2.7 cent and breaks above there, then we'll see some massive gains. We're talking 25% gains in a day, maybe even more, perhaps maybe even doubling to 100% over the space of 2 weeks. Once it's broken past this level. But at the moment, obviously, we're quite a way off at the moment. We've got quite a long way to go, but showing its relative strength at the moment, I'm very optimistic about how we're going to recover from that. Satoshis don't really have the same kind of trigger point as the tether pairing does. The tether pairing is really showing us where it's at. But when it comes to Matic, all I can say is this coin is going to show us some pretty decent moves in the new year. Even though the alt season has been postponed, we've got a front runner. When you look at a coin like Matic, it's definitely trending in its own way. It's got its own thing going on, and for a brand new project, it's pretty much holding its value from where it started at the beginning, which is all the way back down there. It's not retraced. It's not likely to retrace to that level. I think that's very unlikely. If we have a quick little measure move from where we started all the way back here when on its original ICO to where the price is at the moment, it's a 400% increase. Pretty good. So I'm very unlikely to retrace back to that level. Almost certainly going to be hanging around at this level for a little longer until we form this golden cross, which at the moment is a long way away. It's definitely a long way away, but it's looking pretty good. The scary thing would be to me is that Bitcoin, is looking like it wants to come back down again. I would say that Bitcoin is going to come back down into the 6,000 area, and perhaps maybe find a bounce around about the 6,600 area, similar to the way it bounced today. but finally beginning to rest down here for perhaps maybe the rest of the year. I don't see that we're likely to be having a move like this anytime soon. There's no reason why we had that move in the first place. You couldn't really account for that, but it did happen. But the inevitable descending formation kicked in, brought about by this. What we're looking at here is a conversion line crossing over the baseline on Ichimoku Cloud Cross. That means that there's going to be a continuation of the move down from the level that the price action was at, which at the time the price action was roughly, we could call it around about 7,800. So 7,800 and lower, probably talking into the 6,000s to maybe even as low as 5,000. When I'm talking about 5,000, I don't think it's unlikely to expect a $5,000 Bitcoin before we start an actual reversal back up again to break above this trend. Now, if we look at the bottom of here, then when we reach 5,000 on this descending trend, it's going to be in February next year. Would we have broken out the descending trend by then and hit that all-time low of 5,000 by that point? I think it's very likely that we would have hit that and then broken out of here by that point. If we haven't, then we are talking about a full retracement with Bitcoin, and that would mean pretty much a full retracement of all coins in the crypto market. Maybe not Matic, but Matic will not be able to flourish in a market that's had its entire sentiment drained out of it. So be careful with that. But when we're talking about good coins, healthy coins, look at the ones on Binance today. Look at the ones that have gained in their Satoshi values and held a relatively decent area with their tether value. One of those coins you will notice is Matic, and that speaks volumes for what it's likely to be doing in the future. If this is how it reacts in serious days of red candles, think about how it's going to achieve when the market turns the corner and starts to pick up again. I do have a theory that actually Bitcoin, might not be a front runner by the end of this 2021 bull cycle. The bull cycle looks like it's failing at the moment. When you take a look at Bitcoin at the moment, we're supposed to be in a bull market. We clearly are still up from where we began, so you could definitely call this a bull market still. It's looking to me a little bit more like a failed cycle though, because we should have at this point started to pick up again, but we haven't. All we've done is been making lower lows and higher lows. Lower lows and higher lows, yeah. And what this means to me is that there has been too much over-leveraged moves, too many people taking profit, too many people shorting. Basically, Bitcoin is a different situation than it's ever been in. There's more money, there's more leveraged money, there's going to be bigger moves up and bigger moves down. Basically, quite frankly, it's a real mess. And back in the olden days, you used to either buy Bitcoin or you used to sell Bitcoin. There was none of this craziness going around. Not until I'd say probably around this time. This is when it all started to kick in. The leverage trading with Bitcoin started to become a real thing in 2017, at the end of 2017, and that has definitely shown when you saw the parabolic move that took place. But since people were caught on the bottom, it's overexcited a lot of people. There's been way too much money being burned too early, and now we're really feeling the hangover from that party, and this is basically what's happened. And unfortunately, Bitcoin still dictates the health of the market, and at the moment the market's very, very unhealthy, which is why I find that, to be honest with you, if you're really looking at planning for the long run, yes, you can always talk about Bitcoin because Bitcoin is the front runner. It's always going to be the main player. But things are going to change. Bitcoin, as an asset, it doesn't really do much. In fact, it does virtually nothing. You really need to just at this point start to look at other coins that do actually do something. When you're thinking of sort of the first things that come to mind will be Ethereum. Ethereum is the biggest cryptocurrency out there, excluding Bitcoin. And it's building an entire economy around itself, and part of the infrastructure is now Matic. Matic is part of that infrastructure. If you want to have a side chain, you want to have fast transactions, you're going to use Matic. So it stands to reason that by the end of 2021, when a lot of this building has taken place, A lot of these major companies are using the Ethereum blockchain for smart contracts and whatnot. They're going to be using things like Matic. They're going to be using many other platforms. They're going to be using many other side chains, but Matic's going to be one of them. And Matic is cheap as chips, and so it'd be rude not to accumulate at this level. I mean, honestly, it would be a really big mistake. Now, I'm not a financial advisor. It's not financial advice. Just going by the charts and the fundamentals and a little bit of theory that I've implanted there would tell me that Bitcoin isn't the be all and end all. Blockchain is a technology that's probably going to be around for at least another 20 years before quantum computing really kicks in. And so until then, let's look at this. Stand back and look at it and work out what it is that is likely to be achieved in these next 2 years. I think we all know where we stand with that. I'll leave you with that then. I've got a bit of a cold, so I'm gonna leave it there and take some medicine and have an early night. Have a good weekend. Take it easy.